When there's an injustice against you or someone you love or someone you believe in, stand up. Don't sit down on them, if they need you.
Welcome to Popcorn Planet's Pop Culture Justice. I am Andy Signore, and we are back for...
Hi, everybody. There.
I did it wrong. Welcome back to Popcorn Planet's Diddy Gate coverage. I'm Andy Signore, back with It's Kim. I hope you're all doing well. Thank you, Kim. Kim has been watching this as I've been stuck traveling back for Memorial Day, so I'm going to be catching up with you all along with Kim. I'm still a little car sick from that Uber ride, Kim, but the show must go on. I got this started as quick as I could. Thankfully, court was going a little later. We were supposed to start a few minutes ago, but it all worked out, and we're here to give you some updates, including this breaking news, which is that Cassie apparently is in the hospital and in the labor unit. So stay tuned on that news. Now TMZ's trying to report that there may be complications. I just find that kind of disturbing. Let's let her do this in peace and not hound her with the press. But reports are coming in that she is now in the hospital in labor, which we expected was going to happen any day now. Thankfully, she got through her testimony. That's why they scheduled her so early. We will be getting their updates as that happens. Other updates, including the fact that Janice Combs, Diddy's mom, was in court today. It's her first appearance since the trial began 2 weeks ago. So people were speculating what was going on, but she did show up this time. But today's was all about Capricorn Clark, who was brought up last week as a seemingly witness to the Kid Cudi stuff and the arson stuff with his car. And so today, Capricorn was the main witness today. A lot of coming in, including kidnapping claims, Kim, a lot of crazy stuff. No, this was a pretty intense day, no?
There was a lot today. I was not, this has been the busiest day of note-taking I have had probably through this whole trial. It was just, sometimes there are notes that come in, you know, there's reporting that's like, okay, well, I can sum that up in one thing later. We can make a nice little paragraph about that. But it's like, no, this is a point. This is a point. This is a point. This is a point. And so much of this, to me, spells out, as we put it, RICO law, as well as just so much of what Capricorn experienced is just terrible. Absolutely terrible. I have a lot of empathy for this woman, and I think you guys will too. And we've got lots to go through.
So let's get to it, because I do have a bit of a heart out today to help with my some plans with my kids. So we should have just enough time to go through this with you guys. So thank you. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe. If you're watching on one of the audio platforms, we are now, podcast is available on all podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, etc. Please leave us a good rating and check it out there if you want to listen to us in the car or what have you. All right, but let's get into the notes today. So Capricorn Clark took the stand. She was a former employee. She was starting Bad Boy Records back in 2004, was a PA, production assistant, and then a director of women's for Sean John. She worked for Combs until 2020 and served as Cassie's creative director until 2018, and previously worked for Def Jam, Death Row. You had your hand up. Go ahead. What, do you want to add something?
Yes, I just want to say something that I think is important to recognize while we go through this timeline is that Capricorn has had a lot of employment with Combs and Combs Enterprises, a lot of in and out, in and out, in and out. And I was seeing a lot of inconsistency when it came to what years, what dates, but she has been heavily involved, you know, leaving employment, coming back, different companies. You know, one point she's doing Sean John, then she's working specifically for Cassie, yada, yada, yada. There was a lot of in and out. So there may be
and she has
years here that are incorrect.
Right? We're going to learn Suge Knight, 50 Cent, a lot of stuff came up in this. There she is.
Yes.
As a pretty big witness that we're going to be giving you the details on. Okay, so let's get into it. Clark said that Combs and a bodyguard known as Uncle Paulie brought her to a spot in Central Park. Combs told me he didn't know that I had anything to do with Suge Knight, and if anything happened, he would have to unalive me, Clark testified. The witness said she continued working with Combs because she felt she could have been more transparent. There was nothing I could do in Central Park to tell him I was a trustworthy person, she said. She took the threat seriously. Interesting.
Yeah. So he did not like that she had a history with Suge, and definitely felt like she was on notice from the very beginning. This was a culture of fear, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, got it. So Diddy once made a vague threat regarding 50 Cent, according to Clark. She described one incident at MTV when Combs was doing press with 50 Cent. Clark, Combs, and an entertainment manager who worked for both Combs and 50 got in an elevator afterwards. She recalled they were having a back and forth. She remembered Combs saying, "I don't like all the back and forth. I like arms." Pew pew. Combs was discussing 50 Cent. Clark said, and she perceived his tone as very serious. Well, 50 Cent obviously has been somebody who's been very vocal, and I guess he already responded to this. Of course he did.
He did.
Cut. Wait a minute. Puffy's got a gun. I can't believe that I don't feel safe. LOL. He's really getting into the AI stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Of course he responded. He's been very vocal in calling out Diddy now. Apparently working on a documentary.
Yep.
We'll see where and if and when that's actually what the details of that are, but
I think
50 Cent has now entered the chat.
50 is either refreshing Inner City Press or he's watching BJ or Rap or somebody to go like, "Oh, I got mentioned, yay." So
Clark then said Combs once accused her of stealing 3 pieces of high-end jewelry. Interesting. That had been given on loan and subjected her to a lie detector test when it went missing. She testified that Combs had tasked her with bringing the jewelry to Teterboro Airport, but she didn't realize the items were gone until they were at the airport. Clark told the court that she was brought to an office she didn't recognize in New York City after being questioned for hours on the matter. Well, that's crazy. Who ran the lie detector? What is this crazy?
We'll get into
man,
that.
the sixth floor of the building told her that she was there to take a lie detector test and that if she failed, he would throw her in the East River. So this was not like on the level detector test, Kim, it sounds like.
I mean, we'll keep reading. It was a lot.
The first test, well, I'm just saying not by actual legal professionals. The first test was inconclusive, and she was threatened again with being thrown in the East River by the man administering the polygraph, Clark said. She was brought home and forced back the next day, saying that she was told by Combs security she was not free to leave until she was cleared of any wrongdoing, as if a lie detector test would even do that. It took 5 days of taking the test, she said. She did not want to take the test, but she wanted to get through the ordeal and prove her innocence. So I guess she did, because she wasn't thrown in the East River, Kim, so she somehow passed that test. Clark said she developed alopecia due to the stress of working with Combs. It's just Jada Pinkett Smith has that. And so she was paid $65,000 a year. That's it, as the PA to deal with all these threats and everything. Yikes. She claims HR told her she was owed $80,000 in overtime, but Diddy ripped up the paper. Interesting. So there was an HR department at Diddy's firm who was saying yes, you need to pay, and then he's just ripping it up? That's not a good sign.
Also, to say, just before anybody yells at me, there were a few outlets that reported that she was making $55K a year, not 65, but I was seeing both. So I put 65 to give the benefit of the doubt.
Close enough. Who
it's
cares?
Still bad.
Anybody who's yelling about that kind of specific can go watch something else. That's a little too Karen-y
I'm trying.
for me. Yeah, you're doing a great job. Don't stress about dumb stuff like that. Part of Clark's job was to set up hotel rooms for Combs, which she told the court required drugs of an intravenous drip. She would then unpack his clothing and make sure his personal belongings were in place, which included, of course, baby oil and a small camera. Part of the setup required a toiletry bag with substances such as Z. Clark also confirmed that Diddy would have a weekly hotel stay with Kim Porter. She recalls a 2010 interaction with Combs at LA home where he questioned why she didn't have a boyfriend. That's when Combs summoned girlfriend Cassie into the room and had her sit down, stand up, and turn around on command. Combs then allegedly added, you bees don't want to do that, and that's why you don't have a man, Clark responded. You're mother effing right. Combs usually obtained substances on his own. There were times that she was asked to get substances for him. She said Combs once asked her to get him sniffy sniff with the white stuff while they were in the south of France in 2006. He also asked her to get prescription substances in her name and that he would pay for it. Yikes. Again, this is an employee that he's making do illegal activity. Sure sounds like Ricola.
A little bit.
She recalled a time when Combs had 100,000 euros that he made from club bookings in Europe. She personally counted the cash for Combs and believed he kept it in a personal safe in his bedroom. So not paying taxes on that. She recounted a time that she was at Combs's Miami home in the summer 2006, she said when she arrived, Combs told her, "I don't care what goes on this weekend. You are not to leave this house." Combs later directed Clark to escort a guest to another location in Miami, and she said she stayed for about an hour before receiving a call from Combs asking where she was. When he returned to Combs's home, he told her, "See, your problem is you want a life and you can't have that here." Yikes. So you're a slave to Diddy is what it sure sounds like to me. This woman was. The following day, Clark said to Combs' chef, "I hate it here." And the chef relayed to Combs, "He immediately looked at me and said, 'You hate it here?' And he charged me," Clark testified. She said Combs began pushing her and demanding she get out of his house. Clark said Combs pushed her about 30 yards, using about 75% of his force. Eventually, one of Combs' security guards intervened by telling Combs to stop and telling Clark to go pack her belongings. Clark testified she left her job after the incident because it was crossing my boundaries. So it's interesting because she was able to leave after all these threats. Sounds
but
like
then
he
she
did.
did come back. She did come back. There's a lot of things with this. I almost feel I'll talk about it more at the end because I know we want to get through all of these notes and I don't want to go on too long and hold you up, Andy, because I know you got a heart out. But a lot of this relationship does feel like an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
It's instead of romantic, it is employer-employee. And it is like, this is her family. This is her life. And we'll get more into that as we go. But it's a bit disturbing.
So then the focus shifted to Kid Cudi. The burner phone that Cassie used to contact Cudi was purchased at Clark's urging. Clark picked up Cassie one day and Cassie asked Cudi to join them, which Clark thought was a bad idea. She testified that she was worried that Cassie was texting her on a cell phone paid for by Combs. So she took Cassie to Best Buy to get a new phone as she feared Cassie was going to get us all unalived. Excuse me. The morning of December 21st, 2011, Diddy discovered Cassie and Cudi. Combs banged on Clark's door between 5:30 and 6 a.m. It sounded like metal clanging against her metal door, she recalled. She opened the door to Combs looking furious with a pew-pew in his hand and his dress slacks ripped at the crotch. "Why didn't you tell me?" Clark recalled Combs saying. He told her to get dressed because we're going to unalive Cudi. Clark said that she told Combs she didn't want to go, but that Combs said he didn't care. "I'd never seen anything like this before," Clark said. Combs had never visited her at her home before, and she had never seen him with a weapon. "The way he was acting, I just felt like anything could happen." Clark said she was swept into a Cadillac Escalade. She, Combs, and the security staffer went into the SUV to Cudi's home. Clark said she called Cassie on her burner phone after seeing Combs and the security staffer go into the home. Cudi overheard the conversation and sped from his location to the Sunset Marquis Hotel to his home. Clark said she remembered seeing Cudi pull up in the Escalade before speeding up the hill away from the home and the SUV. Combs and the security staffer were outside by this point, and the Escalade gave chase. Clark said, but Cudi lost them. Their SUV turned around, Clark said, and sirens heading to Cudi's house could be heard blaring past. Sirens appeared to calm Combs down. Clark said he just started to maybe, for the first time that morning, pull himself together, Clark said. After learning about Cassie and Cudi, Diddy brutally kicked Cassie, as she was on the floor of his LA home. Clark explained with tearful and with a shaky voice that Cassie was on the ground in full fetal position. She wasn't doing anything. She was crying silently. He attacked her with 100% full force, and Combs told her not to interfere or he would attack her next, as in Capricorn. No one on his security intervened. Clark described being too scared to call the police on Combs. She called Cassie's mother, told her that Cassie was being hurt, and told her to call the police. Combs questioned Clark about what she knew about Cassie and Cudi. Combs told her, "I should unalive you, bees." He also said that he would cut Cassie's face. Combs fired Clark, she said, for her allegedly failing to inform him, but other reporting says it was because she reported the kidnapping to HR. "I lost everything," Clark said, ticking off a list of employment benefits such as health insurance and a 401k. Clark said Combs gave her 30-day notice in 2012. He said, "I would never work again and all these people weren't my friends, and he would make me unalive myself." She did have legal action against Diddy in 2012, and they settled. She did end up working for Diddy again, but working for Cassie after she signed a new record deal in 2016. No one else would hire her. There was also discussions about her being hired as a chief of staff as recently as last year. She did retain an attorney, Brian Friedman, interesting, after Cassie's civil lawsuit. So before we get into the cross-exam, yeah, that's a lot, man. And it's just, it's like the mindset of Diddy sitting there hearing all this, knowing it's not good. It happened. I can only assume it happened. And for him to just sort of sit there, he must be stewing, Kim. I imagine this was probably not a good day for him to hear all this and a witness coming forward, yet another confirming all that we've heard from Cassie and everything else. Thoughts?
I do think so. As we get into the cross, I think you'll see how they try to spin it. I don't think it worked. Clearly, Capricorn, although was not in a romantic relationship with Diddy, I believe she absolutely was traumatized by him. I don't know how you couldn't have been with all of these events that she experienced, and really fearing for her livelihood, for her life, for her reputation, for being in this industry, everything else. And we'll talk more about why there was the discussion about her being hired as chief of staff. We'll get there, but just incredibly terrifying. And I did my best to, put everything together concisely, but there's a lot of details here. A lot of details here.
You did great. You're doing awesome. Don't worry. Cross-exam then took over. In April 2024, Clark was in negotiations to potentially work for Diddy again. She said that during a meeting last year with Combs' attorney, Costco lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, and Teeny Garagos, she brought up wanting to become Combs' chief of staff. In the conversation, she said that Cassie and Diddy were toxic. Clark authorized Brian Freeman to seek a job on her behalf. She said it was very procedural, lawyer to lawyer. Costco lawyer responded that she was told she couldn't be given a job in the middle of the investigation. Clark did not remember that. I got to be honest. This is weird. So last year, she's trying to get a job as the chief of staff for the toxic people.
We'll get there. We will get there.
Again, good cross-direct, because I'm like, well, wait, that smells funny. The defense brought up a text message that Clark sent to Diddy confessing she once had a crush on him. This was back in 2002, though, so seems irrelevant. Clark testified she did not remember this, but she was clear that the relationship was platonic. The missing jewelry was discussed again. Clark told the court she was locked up in an office for 40 hours. She was hooked up to a polygraph test at 8:10 a.m. and wouldn't be finished until about 5 or 6 p.m. Clark said she would take the test. It would be taken for review, and she would keep taking the test until Combs cleared her 5 days later. Costco lawyer asked whether she reported to HR that she was locked in a building for 5 days. Clark said she did not. Clark became emotional when asked about working for him. She said she worked hard, and it was complicated as Diddy broke the glass ceiling for black people in the business world. She learned a lot from him, especially as someone who didn't finish her college education. Costco lawyer questioned Clark on her decision to stop working for Combs in 2006 after he was violent towards her. She got a job at Jive Zomba, working on projects for R. Kelly, yikes, and Ciara. Costco lawyer asked if Combs was supportive of her leaving, but Clark was non-committal. I don't remember him being unsupportive of the move. She also seemed to push back on the suggestion that Combs helped her get the job. He then asked about the pay bump she got when she worked for Jive Zomba. Clark seemed to think Costco lawyer was implying she left her job with Combs to get more money, which she pushed back on. That's not why I went there, she said, shaking her head vigorously. Clark said that Cassie and her did not get along sometimes. She said that in 2008, she went from being a sweet model to a feisty girlfriend that felt like Clark worked for her. Clark implied Cassie had talent, but not quite to Whitney Houston or Mariah Carey levels. Ouch. When the defense pushed Clark to evaluate Ventura's singing ability, the witness said she wasn't a Whitney or Mariah level talent, but a studio artist. Clark said she'd seen Ventura live a handful of times, and Combs' then girlfriend might have underperformed due to nerves. She also said that around 2016, she thought the drug use was taking a toll on her career. Bizarrely, Costco lawyer then brought up that in December 2011, Diddy was at an orphanage in Kazakhstan. Jeez. What? My wife, Inner City reported this is... yeah, that's very strange. Okay, well,
but there's questions now about the orphanage. There's questions now about what happened. There's questions now about the kids. I don't know what's happening.
Was Borat there? I don't know.
I don't know. I will look more into this, but we couldn't stop, and it was weird. That's all. It was weird. Kazakhstan has entered the chat. That's all I'm saying.
Wow, 50 Cent in Kazakhstan. Who would have thought? The defense then presented Clark with emails from her work at Bad Boy from January 2012, just 3 weeks after she says she was kidnapped by Combs. When asked if she continued conducting business with Combs even after telling the jury she was kidnapped and threatened with murder, Clark said yes. Diddy's lawyers suggested Clark voluntarily went with Combs to Kid Cudi's house in December 2011 because she didn't want him to do something stupid. Clark maintained that she did not want to go with Combs. I went because he told me that he didn't care that I didn't want to go. Diddy's lawyers asked if it was possible that Combs would do something stupid because he's a jealous guy. She responded, I wouldn't use the word jealous. He has a very bad temper. She also testified that she wasn't sure how Combs and his security guard got through the gate surrounding Cudi's home because their backs were to her and she wasn't paying close enough attention to what they were doing. I was praying that Cudi wasn't inside there. There were some discussions regarding the phone call Clark made to Cudi and whether or not Lauren London, a friend of Cassie and Diddy, was on the phone. She was unsure. She said it was a long time ago. She then testified that after the break, she witnessed Diddy kicking Cassie in the street. She said she vacationed in the south of France and Italy with Rihanna, and she was fired from her job. She was hired after Chris Lighty to work for 50 Cent. Okay, whatever. Clark didn't help LA fire investigators in their probe to kill. Clark admitted she didn't help LA firefighters, investigators in their probe of the car getting torched. When an LAFD fire representative called her in the summer of 2012, Clark hung up on the investigator and never called back. Clark said she simply didn't want to have anything to do with this any longer. Diddy's lawyers entered an email where Clark sent to Combs in 2014 into evidence where Clark asked for his forgiveness. The email was sent 2 years after Combs fired her and about 2 years before she returned to work for him again. In the email, Clark wrote that hopefully Combs will forgive her soon and that she felt like he forgave everyone but her. Other emails were also brought into court, including one from months later, where Clark said she wanted to be his friend again. Clark seemed angry with Cassie, saying she was clearly never a real friend. Clark broke down sobbing on the witness stand, saying the situation was complicated for her and that she felt she was Ventura's protector. She apologized to the judge for her crying, but the judge assured her she didn't need to be sorry. Clark was very emotional and said that she does not have parents and her son is autistic. The stakes for her were high. She said that she emailed him for forgiveness because she wanted her life back. That's a good response, I got to say, because I'm reading this and I'm like, not only the Stockholm syndrome of it, which is valid, but that's a very good, reasonable response. Go ahead.
I have seen this in other situations in my life where you have an employer that understands that the person that they've hired does not have a great support system. Then there are trauma bonds in place and they know that they can just kind of bring them back and treat them like garbage and everything else because they have nowhere else to go. And in this case, he also blacklisted her completely in the industry. So she literally had nowhere to go. And, you know, a son that may have higher support needs than the average. She was stuck. She was stuck. This was her family. This was her life. This was her dream. And I think she had a lot of very complicated emotions with this. And I think most of us, we look at this and go, well, why would anybody stay in this? Why would anybody want to go back? And it's like, you got to look at the full picture. I think there was some grooming here. I think there was some abuse here for her. And like, it's not romantic, like I said. But if we were looking at this as a romantic relationship, I think it would make more sense. But it's just, it's a different version. But she's been through a lot.
So then we went to redirect. Government asked her about what happened with her job with Chris Lighty, who I guess worked for 50 Cent. She said that Chris died the day she was supposed to start. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, under redirect examination, Diddy employee Clark said that the settlement she reached with Combs after her 2012 firing required multiple non-disparagements, NDAs.
They couldn't say stuff about each other.
And that Combs signed a letter of recommendation for Clark so she could get more jobs. Combs never signed that recommendation letter, however. She testified, so he never fulfilled that side of the bargain. Clark couldn't get a job in the industry after that. She also said that in a meeting that she thought was about possible employment with executives from Interscope, they told her to leave Combs alone and it wouldn't end well for her. So the Interscope record execs are telling her, leave Combs alone. This is the meeting.
This is the meeting that they're talking about from last year, we believe.
So again, RICO law, not only that, but all his accomplices and other labels and everybody all in cahoots, leave Combs alone. That's crazy. The judge struck that part of the testimony from the record, though, after sustaining a defense objection. I guess hearsay. Clark testified that she continued to look for work through 2015, but wasn't able to find a new job in the industry because she was blacklisted. The judge sustained another defense objection. She was then wasn't able to find steady work in the entertainment industry, so she started consulting. At this level of business, he holds all the power as it related to me. I just wanted to work and provide for my son. She told the court that she went with Combs on the day of the break-in at Cuddy's because she felt she could be hurt if she refused. She said Combs had a pew-pew throughout the entire incident, and it was visible to her. Combs also testified that he didn't report the situation to police because Combs told her that if cops found out about the breaking into Cuddy's home, that they would all be hurt. Prosecutors said they plan to call 4 witnesses tomorrow: LA Police Department officer, LA Fire Department investigator, Deontay Nash, and the infamous Mia, who we've assumed is yet another woman in all of this situation. But there you go. So a big day, a lot from Capricorn. Give us more of your insight there, Kim, as you were breaking it down.
So just in the last part there where we're talking about this meeting with Interscope, different things, it's hard to tell exactly where we are in the timeline because we're talking about so many jobs that she had at different parts of Combs Enterprises, the back and forth and the back and forth. But it definitely seemed like she was trying to explain something, but there were so many objections, sidebars, etc. It's hard to know exactly what she was trying to tell everyone. But I think what Diddy's team may have been trying to do is show that Capricorn kept coming back, so it must not have been that bad. But I felt like as I was reading these notes, it's like, yeah, she kept coming back because she didn't have a choice. Because Diddy put her in that position. She was blacklisted. She had nowhere to go. And it's really sad to see it. And clearly she was incredibly emotional. I don't think the jury is going to look at her as so much as a willing participant, as much as someone who's just been through it. So I think this was a good witness for the prosecution, even though she had issues with Cassie. She didn't hide from any of that stuff, you know? And I thought it really humanized her. And I think she was a great witness for the prosecution, but that's just my opinion.
But so she didn't talk about specifically the arson. She didn't bring that. They didn't bring that up.
Not specifically about the vehicle, no.
The break into his house they did, but so
because
she
was
wasn't
kidnapped in that regard.
We still don't know who actually burned the car down.
That we have not discussed. I'm guessing we're going to get more into that with the LAPD and the fire department as well.
But no one's fessing up to it, it seems.
No, but the thing is, one of the charges that's against him is kidnapping. And to me, when I look at this, I go, okay, so there is the incident with the vehicle where she was taken, right, to the break-in situation with Kid Cudi. But then there's also this lie detector stuff where she was forced to stay there and do this, and they wouldn't let her go. And then that makes me wonder what's up with that. We also have forced labor. We've heard that now she was owed over $80,000 of unpaid wages. All of this stuff really does, I think, add up after a while. I'd be interested to hear legal, analysis of this, but I think she really did show that this was an organization that was doing illegal things, and people in the organization were being forced to do things essentially for the benefit of Combs in an illegal manner.
Yeah, without a doubt. This is now there are multiple examples of this people coming forward, employees coming forward, sharing these stories. And yes, kidnapping is part of the RICO law. So there it is. So arson implying him, kidnapping, all of it. Again, they only needed 2 out of the 8, and they are clearly doing their job getting this across the line, it seems. So big day in the trial tomorrow. Sounds like another big day. Good to see 50 Cent still paying close attention to it. We'll see what happens there. But bravo on this recap, Kim. I'm going to stop it there for the recap for all you guys watching on the replays. We'll hang for another few minutes to go through some other updates, including Cassie's pregnancy and more. So if you're not yet a member, consider joining Popcorn Planet and watch the full replays currently on Patreon, soon to be elsewhere. But appreciate all you guys who have supported it, and make sure you go support It's Kim over on YouTube. Just search It's Kim. You'll find her and show her some love as well. One word, It's Kim. And if you haven't subscribed to her channel or here on Popcorn Planet, do us a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for alerts, smash that thumbs up as well, and leave a comment down below. All the engagement helps a lot to get the word out on this coverage. And we'll be back again tomorrow afterwards to hear from Mia and these police and firefighters.